Hey, nice to meet you guys. A huge pleasure to be here, and I'm gonna present you architecture lessons from customers in Latam they are doing. They failure, but we help them to prevent them, and I will gonna teach you how you guys can do the same, right? So I'm Bruno Marangoni. I'm Latam Senior Solutions Architect at DXC. Yeah, so our agenda is just an introduction about this architecture perspective. Failure number one, we are going to talk about resilience, security, operational excellence, and multi-account and coastal efficiency. And at the end, I'm gonna do like final thoughts, right? So, real architectures, real failures, and also real lessons. It's all about best practice, right? So we learn about the errors or the issues from each other, and we can apply in our perspective or scenario. So every architecture looks perfect until meets the reality, right? So we saw a couple days ago, Amazon has a problem, and we all know the results of the problem. So some clients, they got stuck on the infrastructure because they try to prevent, but they don't test it, right? So it's the problem, the real problem of perfect architecture is when we draw, implement, but we don't actually test the problem. So my first failure lesson is about resilience. So I have like a customer, this customer is actually Brazilian customer. So they have like they are e-commerce fulfillment, and they host two of our major mobile companies to sell like cell phones. So they sell iPhones, accessories, Motorola, and so on. And they got like average 3K calls per day in their website. So I'm just saying here is a mix of both customers, and this is one of the problems. They don't isolate the customers; they just put into the same architecture. Is actually a contract problem, right? So at the end, their customers are just sharing the same infrastructure. And it's just a basic three-tier application. So load balancer, web and app layer, and database. We all learned in AWS, this is the most perfect web three-tier application. So load balancer, we just balance EC2 instance, ECS, EKS, whatever, doing auto-scaling, and also we do the same for database, RDS, or even a database over EC2, right? Balance over the availability zone, but this is the real architecture for this customer. So they got manual scale, and we are talking about e-commerce, right? So they have like peak seasonal marketing campaigns, seasonal like Black Friday. So with a web application, doing manual scale is the worst part, right? So as you can see here, let me point. Yes, if you count, it is right. They just hold all instance, like 5 instances on one availability zone and just one in another availability zone. And I asked them why there is a reason for that, and they just say no. We just add this in this way. Here also they have like the primary database in a reverse availability zone from the most where the most instances still are hosted. So we know AWS has a region component, and in the region we have availability zones. And AWS say, okay, just is a region you can add in whatever availability zone you want. But AZ is just a data center, right? And in this case, here I got like almost 20 milliseconds of time in latency when I go to this instance and call the RDS database. So I'm adding just a latency for the communication between the web application and the database in this scenario. So when we arrange that, I put the primary RDS here. I just decrease the time of the calls to the database. And also, we are talking about e-commerce, right? There's no caching, it's a trash here. And also, as they do like a manual scale, they even don't have like EC2 Gold image. Like, just to build up a new instance when they need it, like for seasonal marketing or Black Friday or whatever. So they have to just ask the support and create a new instance, deploy, install every dependencies in the application to add in front of the load balancer. So too much manual steps, right? So what we have done for this customer? First, balance the instance, right? So if we are going to need more availability for an e-commerce, is a reason to just distribute the instance between easy. Or even if availability zone is not a trade-off for this customer, we can just add everything inside the one availability zone. But we are talking about e-commerce. If the AZ1 just go down, the application will go down too. Also, we create image EC2 golden image to create the autoscaling group. So we have done like the template for the EC2 with all dependencies and create the way that the autoscaling works. The RDS, as we just spread the EC2 instance, add the autoscaling, there's no reason to just move the RDS like the primary to here. One thing I didn't know for you guys, an e-commerce of mobile has too much photos, right? Because they are selling mobile. So that photo for iPhone, photos for whatever cell phone they are going to sell. Yeah, they have here S3 instance to host the images. But I add here the caching strategy. So the first one is for the web part, the front end, right? To cache the images for the photos. So I add more performance to answer the calls for the customers, because they don't need to download the image again. Just we are adding cache here. And also on the development part, they in this, before this, they are doing like every time one customer go to the website, they call the database, and the database answer the call with the images. So every time when customer go, they download everything. We add here caching for the database as well. So at the end of this architecture, we just decrease 80 milliseconds of when one customer just go the website, the e-commerce. So we got too much performance for this this client. Yeah, we actually do very good data in Brazil, or it's good to sell for customers or improvement, right? So the lesson one, the modifications we have done: golden image, bootstrap, auto scaling. We balance the web application between AZs. We have consolidate load balancers. I didn't tell for you guys, but they have, yes, they have it like for 3,000 calls in average per day. They have created like 6 load balancers for development, Q&A, proj, for other parts of the website, like for admin, and I don't know, I couldn't remember the last one, but they create 6 load balancer for each kind of part of the website. And we consolidate, we actually decrease the amount of money they were paying. And cache for the database layer and web layer. So after the modifications, yeah, the e-commerce can accept more peak of customers, and also in this customer we were going to do a Black Friday. If you guys remember, the iPhone 14 is 3-4 years ago. Yeah, when the Apple just released the iPhone in Brazil, we are talking about the most, both two companies in Brazil, they sell iPhone and other phones, and the website went down. Like they lose money, and also the mobile company lose money as well. So in this lesson, availability is an architecture decision, not a checkbox. You have to do your trade-offs. We have done this trade-off with them. When the website went down on Black Friday, the engineer team just say, okay, let's go and do let's spread the application between the 6 AZ on North Virginia. Why? There's a reason for that. Is availability. Okay, we can get more availability, but there's no reason, because the average of calls per user, like on a week, on a day, 3,000 calls is too small, right? So there's no reason for that. And we approve all that, and after we change everything, and they got like satisfied, right? Cool. Second lesson, failure lesson 2. This is security plus operational excellence. For this customer, they got like an EKS and plus security hub. So the cluster was enterprise bank with the most critical application is running on that. This application is a customer service platform. So EKS, most mission critical workload, and the security hub was enabled in the whole account following the CIS best practices and also the foundational security best practices. The alerts were generated, but some of them was ignored, and the version update for EKS was pop-upping every month, every day, and they just were doing postponed this pop-up. So the problem is the EKS and an update. There's someone here got like problem with EKS that you have to update, right? Yeah, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. So just to let you know, GuardDuty has some features very good with EKS. You have to enable on GuardDuty and also enable on your EKS cluster. Just here, I just print the images from the services. But the point is here. So the Security Hub alerts was alerting EKS version update support soon, right? So the whole CSCPM was running very good. They were alerting you should update as quickly as possible, but they are just ignoring and suppress. Yeah, the day coming. So we work with teams to have like a DevSecOps cycle to broken the silos, but sometimes the communication didn't work, right? So the guys from the platform team was suppressing and they didn't talk with the security team. And one day the security team just is enough. Every time this alert is getting for us, let's apply the upgrade for EKS. And what's happened? Yeah, this is the documentation for EKS on the AWS documentation. Once you upgrade the cluster, you can downgrade, right? And even worse, if you upgrade and you were in the version there is not super more on the console, you cannot go back, and that's a problem here. So AWS didn't say on the documentation, but sometimes you can call your TAN, your solutions architect, your partner, and say, man, my application is down, I'm losing money, I have to go back. Yeah, they could help you. In this case, it was that. So we call the AWS as a partner and help this customer downgrade the cluster again and put and bring up the cluster and the application come back. So here the problem is the cluster was up, the application was down, right? Some ways the customer have been avoided. Just look for EKS pipeline validation for update, and also governance and architecture. I'm not going through for each one, but here the point is everything was working. they have pretty good governance, they have pretty good process, but the problem here wasn't the update. The problem was the delay from the platform team with the secure team talk each other and plan a day to do the upgrade, right? So the architecture failed when the process failed, and the process, the silo communication was broken in this case. And just a number, this customer was down for 6 hours and lost 1.2 million of reais, is almost $2,050, I think. And also the point here is not the 1.2 million, is the SLA agreement. Because that was a bank, right? It was a huge bank. Okay? Cool. Lesson 3, multi-account and cost efficiency. Here is pretty simple. The company just has like a migration, a journey to cloud. They migrate 70% of workloads were not in production. So dev and QA, every workloads running on the main instance, even EC2, AKS, ECS, no right sizing, no operation window, no shutdown policy. They tried dev as a production. So everything was on the main, and also like for supporting the dev environment was the same SLA at the same cost at production. So what's going to happen? Like a FinOps governance, fear of shutdown, team without clear policy, lack of tags and communication. If no one's the cost, everyone wants the waste. The point here is numbers, right? So we save for this customer 60,000 reais per month, almost $1,100, and the annual saving was pretty good, right? Was pretty good. So cloud is elastic, cost should be true, right? It's pretty important we know that the cost should go elastic as the cloud environment. Final thoughts. I will let you guys just take a picture because it's important for you, for understand everything, the key takeaways that we have talked here. Awesome. You can find me on LinkedIn. And yeah, it was pretty good. Bringing the lessons for this architecture. And yeah, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruno. Bruno will be next to the theater too if you guys have any questions.